The young boy was born without receiving any love from his family. On the contrary, he was thrown into a dark pit by his biological father, left to fend for himself. Because he was one of the 12 children of a heavenly demon, the top martial arts leader. A major leader immediately attacked him as an example for others. Son of the heavenly demon? You're just a loser, haha. Growing even more furious, he charged at his opponent with his frail body, only to receive a punch that split his lips. In this place, only the strongest can survive. Seizing a rock, he used it as a weapon to hit the large opponent. Boom! Followed by a flurry of angry punches and a fierce glare. He became the new leader of that place and later became the most powerful heavenly demon and top martial arts leader, Baek Jung-hyuk. However, when he ascended to the heavens and opened his eyes again, he found himself in someone else's body. This was not the martial arts world he knew. Had he transmigrated? With just a stick in hand, he confidently fought off a gang of armed thugs, striking them down in a flash. The remaining guys frantically rushed up to attack him. Instead, they were beaten to a pulp. In a blink of an eye, all the Blood Fong gangsters were defeated by him. People were in shock. Wasn't this the notorious wastrel heir of the Dmitry clan? Roman, the eldest son of the Dmitry blacksmith family, was 25 years old and known for his debauchery. Famous for being a noble wastrel indulging in vice, he even attempted suicide when he learned he was to be conscripted. The man standing before them was not Roman but someone else. He was Baek Jung-hyuk, the sect leader of the heavenly demon, who had reincarnated into this body. However, things were dire, as just moving a bit almost overwhelmed him. He could only blame himself and knew he needed to become stronger as fast as possible. Only then could he act freely. Kevin, the redhead who had just been saved, came over to thank him for helping him escape the blood fangs. Those evildoers, using their power, forced people into exorbitant debts, then destroyed their crops, making it impossible for them to repay. They had set their sights on Kevin's beautiful sister. Roman also realized at this time that his eyes were very special and definitely someone who could use. Before leaving, he also made arrangements for Kevin. At the same time, Miss Flora of the Lawrence family was on her way here. She was the fiancée arranged for him by his family. However, she refused to accept that her fiancé was such a wretch, and upon meeting him, she demanded that their engagement be called off. Okay, Roman replied. This left young sister in shock. Could their engagement be cancelled that easily? It was the Dmitry family who had proposed this union in the first place. Roman met with his father to discuss the matter and was immediately scolded. Even if you're the fool of this house, you can't be this stupid. You only needed to marry that beautiful girl to solidify our family's status among the upper nobility, and you couldn't even do that. Then, he threw a cup at Roman in anger, blood dripping down. If this engagement is cancelled, within 6 months you'll be on the battlefield. Moreover, for the recent conflict with the Manhwa gang, you'll be responsible. The old man expected Roman to cry and plead as usual, but Roman confidently replied, I'll handle everything myself. That night, his mother persuaded his father, reminding him that Roman was still the eldest in the family. Eventually, his father had to assign Jonathan, the family's head of security, to protect him. The next day, Roman decided to deal with the Manhwa gang himself. Intentionally walking into a narrow alley to lure them out, sure enough, a few members of the Manhwa appeared, brandishing weapons and charging at him. However, they were inexperienced and Roman easily defeated them. 2 other members were in disbelief. Wasn't Roman supposed to be a weakling? How could he be this strong? Meanwhile, Hans, Roman's close aide, was calling for more guards. 2 more gang members attacked Roman but were easily defeated. Roman didn't kill them immediately but instead interrogated them to find out the gang's hideout. He then headed straight to a bar known as a Manhwa haunt. Countless gang members inside stared at him like he was fresh meat. The bartender was the first to charge at Roman but was knocked out with a single punch. Following that, the entire Manhwa gang attacked. In a blink of an eye, Roman had defeated 3 of them, leaving the rest terrified. Wasn't he the fool of the Dmitry family? How could he be this strong? It was because Thien Kui had enhanced Roman's physical abilities with his martial arts techniques in a short amount of time. The gang tried to overpower him with sheer numbers but were unsuccessful. When the bartender regained consciousness, he found everyone defeated. He eventually revealed the true hideout of the Manhwa, located in Lawrence. By the time Jonathan, the head of security, arrived, everything was in. Everyone couldn't believe that just one person could do this. At this time, the gang leader also received the news that all branches had been defeated by Roman Dmitry alone. This left him in disbelief. He then sent all his assassins after Roman to regain the reputation of the Manhwa gang. Meanwhile, the Lawrence house was having an emergency meeting, as it seemed the Barco family was targeting them, preparing for an invasion. Given the dire situation of their family, they certainly couldn't resist, so the Lord had to marry off his daughter to the Dmitry family for help, especially since they were the wealthiest family in the northeast region. Flora, overhearing this, didn't know how to tell them that the marriage pact between the two families had been annulled and that their lifeline had been cut off. They were truly in trouble this time. Just then, a soldier rushed in with news. Captain Jonathan and his troops had arrived at Lawrence, and they were being held up. Meanwhile, Roman was in Lawrence's square, dragging the gang leader of the Manhwa. Just a moment before, he was so confident with his many men, how could he be defeated by a foolish noble? But then, he had to watch in horror as all his men were killed. Trembling with fear, he begged for mercy. But had he ever shown mercy before? It was laughable. In front of the townspeople, Roman had the old man executed, and Captain Jonathan witnessed the terrifying scene. Could this really be the so-called useless young master? When Lord Lawrence learned that Roman had captured and executed the gang leader of the Manhwa, he was shocked. He immediately summoned his son-in-law to question him. Upon meeting him, he demanded, "Why did you come to Lawrence territory and do such a thing?" Roman explained that the Manhwa had harmed the people of Dmitry first, so he had to teach them a lesson. Lord Lawrence then criticized Roman for overstepping his bounds in Lawrence territory. Roman replied, "Isn't it because you all were too weak? Knowing the gang leader was here and you wouldn't do anything to him, that's why I had to come." It was truly shameless of him to say so. In the end, the Lawrence family couldn't do anything to him because they hadn't been able to handle the Manhwa gang from the start. After they left, Lord Lawrence secretly thought highly of his son-in-law, wondering how people could have rumored him to be a useless person. He was very pleased, unaware that his daughter had previously broken off her engagement. When he returned home, upon hearing the entire story from Captain Jonathan, he couldn't believe what he had heard. Had things really changed so much? Roman didn't hide the truth, openly admitting that he had single-handedly wiped out the Blood Fong gang. However, he lied about secretly practicing swordsmanship during that time. To test Roman, they went to the training ground. The captain declared that everyone would spar with the young master today. However, after a while, no one dared to step forward. They were afraid that losing would disgrace the night team, and winning wouldn't bring any benefit. Finally, the captain had to call upon the vice-captain, Chris, to fight. Chris had been dealing with Roman's troubles for a long time and looked down on him, seeing this as an opportunity to teach Roman a lesson. On Roman's side, he just smirked, infuriating Chris even more. As soon as the match started, Chris swiftly closed in to attack Roman, but Roman easily blocked him. Chris was taken aback, wondering how this trash could block his attack. He also noticed that Roman's strength and defensive posture were solid. Was it just a fluke? He couldn't believe it. Chris charged at Roman again but failed. His subsequent moves were also blocked, and soon, he was on the verge of defeat. It was only then that he realized how formidable Roman was. Roman teasingly asked if Chris was warmed up yet, and said now it was his turn. Roman's speed was lightning fast, launching a flurry of attacks that left Chris gasping. Chris had to use his best move, but with a loud clang, everyone thought Roman had been defeated. Yet, Roman had ducked, evading the move. Subsequently, Roman easily defeated the vice-captain, leaving everyone in shock. Remember, Chris was a sword prodigy, achieving a 2-star knight title at a young age. Roman's father, the Lord, was overjoyed. His son, who was once considered useless, was this strong. He agreed to grant Roman a wish. Roman straightforwardly mentioned going to the battlefield in 6 months. While everyone thought he wouldn't want to go, Roman expressed his desire to choose his own team for combat. At first, Roman's father wanted to prevent him from going, but seeing Roman's determination, he eventually agreed. The next day, Chris was assigned to teach aura to Roman, which was quite a shock for him. Not only had he just been defeated by Roman, but now he also had to teach him how to sense mana. It was indeed an unexpected turn of events. The captain, Chris's master, said, "I want you to teach the young master and see what makes him different. If you can accomplish this, I will pass on all my secrets to you, which includes the secrets of becoming a 3-star knight." Chris, of course, didn't want to miss this opportunity. On the other hand, Roman was silently contemplating how people in this world utilize energy. It seemed far weaker compared to his previous world. He decided to test this during the next sword training session. The next day, although quite reluctant, Chris had to teach Roman about aura, which is a way of utilizing mana. Specifically, it's the form in which knights use their mana. While mages use mana in their spells, knights circulate mana throughout their bodies. The pioneer of this aura concept was Emperor Alexandro. He was the first to discover that circulating mana throughout the body could enhance one's physical capabilities. A person could amplify their strength by focusing and releasing that mana. However, to do this, one must be a genius among geniuses, and it's even rarer for mages. Out of 10,000 people, only 1 or 2 might be mages, and to become an aura knight, one needs to at least sense mana. Typically, most people take more than a year to achieve this, while Chris took only half a year, making him somewhat of a prodigy. Roman just smiled, having sensed mana a long time ago thanks to his experiences from his previous life. Only by using mana to release aura can one be recognized as a 1-star knight. Furthermore, one can imbue their sword with aura or strengthen their body to become more powerful. While Chris was still explaining, Roman beside him had already unleashed a powerful aura. Is this guy hacking or something? Roman also realized that the way he used ki in his previous life was completely ineffective in this world. If differentiated, the way they utilize aura is similar to martial arts training, but the way they unleash the stored mana makes this method less effective. Chris, on the other hand, was utterly confused, thinking that Roman had been hiding his true power all along, which explained why he was easily defeated. Roman directly asked, "Have you ever reflected on your training method?" This left Chris stunned. Wasn't it obvious? Roman realized that Chris had some potential, just like the blood demon from his past life who he had once battled. He was willing to put aside his pride to become stronger. However, Chris couldn't be directly told what to do, as it would be like teaching an old horse new tricks. He would have to observe Roman for the next 6 months to understand it himself. That night, Chris reflected a lot, realizing that being labeled a genius was a mere joke in front of true power. The next morning, Chris decided to join Roman on the battlefield. This surprised their captain, but he didn't oppose the decision, even ensuring that his disciple had the best equipment for safety. That evening, Roman approached Kevin from the day before, offering him everything, wealth, status, in exchange for his service, ensuring him a life better than his previous hardships. Kevin immediately bowed, swearing allegiance to Roman as long as Roman promised to protect his family. "My life will be yours." The next day, Kevin was accommodated in Roman's mansion, with Hans guiding him to adapt to his new life. Meanwhile, Roman was in the library, learning more about this world. The higher the rank of the knight, the more privileges they receive from the kingdom. However, no one had ever heard of a 7-star knight. The highest was only 6 stars. Currently, there are 12 known 6-star knights, their power and influence equivalent to royalty, and they are referred to as the 12 Blades of the Continent. For mages, those who reach level 7 are awarded the title of Grand Mage. They are seen as demigods, walking disasters waiting to erupt. A single spell from them could level the ground and blanket the sky. When of equal strength, these mages are more dangerous than the 6-star knights, making this world truly fascinating. Roman asked old Hans to find a quiet place suitable for training, and then instructed the butler to ensure no one disturbed him during this period. Even food and drinks weren't necessary. Is Roman turning on immortality mode? Afterwards, he carefully sat down to activate the first step of the heavenly demon art for mortals, aiming to purge impurities from his body. Roman was in constant pain, the mana that should have been flowing throughout his body was being blocked, all because of the excessive impurities present. Fortunately, he used only a small amount, or else his body wouldn't have been able to endure. A week later, Lord Lawrence and Miss Flora suddenly visited Dmitry. Turns out, upon finding out that his daughter had broken off the engagement with Roman, he was furious. This marriage was their only chance to face the upcoming battle against the Barco clan. Furthermore, other clans had also sided with Barco, aiming to divide the Lawrence territory, hence their brazen visit. They waited till the evening, but Roman hadn't shown up, which worried old Hans. Losing his patience, Lawrence stormed into Roman's father's room angrily, suggesting that if they had issues with them, they could simply call it off. This only enraged Roman's father more. He pointed out the hypocrisy in Lawrence's behavior, as it was his daughter who had called off the engagement first, and now they were playing the victims. What a joke. Roman's father also revealed that a month prior, they had been approached by the Barco family. If they agreed to a pre-arranged marriage with Barco instead of Lawrence, they would be given a connection to the central authority and a piece of the Lawrence territory. However, he had rejected Barco's offer simply because the Dmitry family already held sufficient power. Just as the Lawrences were lost for words, Roman stormed in. His changed appearance shocked everyone. How could he look so stunning? Without hesitation, Roman declared his intention to end the engagement because of those who had underestimated him without even meeting him. This would be the price the Lawrence family had to pay. Over the past week, Roman had purged all impurities from his body, altering his appearance, making him an entirely new person. Upon realizing that Roman could now channel mana, his father was in utter shock, for very few possessed this ability. His son had become a 1 in 10,000 genius, no longer the disappointment he used to be. He and the family would always stand behind and support Roman. This unfamiliar support from his father was strange for Roman, as in his past life, his father was completely the opposite. However, this change wasn't bad. Outside, Miss Flora had been waiting since morning to apologize for her past actions, only to be blatantly ignored by Roman. Despite her explaining that his condition was really bad after the aristocratic gathering in the northeast, and even with the confirmation of this by the housekeeper Hans, Roman seemed to have lost his sanity since then, locking himself in his room to drink. This made Roman somewhat suspicious as the party host's name happened to be the eldest son of the Barco family. Roman seemed to realize the reason behind the previous suicide of this body's owner. Coincidentally, a few days earlier, the Barco family had sent Roman an invitation to their party. Roman naturally did not miss this opportunity to see what they wanted to showcase. The next day, Roman summoned Kevin with a request. He wanted Kevin to become his sword, yet Kevin had never wielded blade in his life. However, Kevin possessed a strong will. The test was extreme. Kevin would have to sever one of his arms, enduring the pain till the very end, as only then could he become stronger than anyone else. After some contemplation, Kevin finally made the decision. He was determined to become stronger, cutting off one of his arms with a single sword strike. Despite the intense pain, he didn't scream and promptly passed out from blood loss. It turned out that before Kevin cut his hand, Roman had placed him under an illusion, so Kevin hadn't lost his arm at all. Kevin passed the test. The next day, Roman decided to teach Kevin the art of mana enhancement, not an ordinary skill but a technique used by mad demons. The Holy Spirit technique, a dangerous method that corrodes the user's soul and allows them to exhibit strength amidst extreme pain. Even if the user is injured severely, they never lose their willpower. If you master this technique, you'll have the power to protect everything around you. Then he began teaching swordsmanship to Kevin. Beside them, Chris, who had been idle for 2 weeks, couldn't stand it anymore. He wanted to learn more combat skills from Roman, but Roman told him that just by observing, he was learning too. Everyone has a different way of learning, not everyone is the same. If he taught Chris in a conventional manner, Chris would have to find his path. He then threw a wooden sword to Chris to spar with Kevin. Roman said, even if they aren't real opponents, he would guide Kevin to defeat Chris. This infuriated Chris as he felt underestimated. How could a level 2 knight like him lose to someone who has only been practicing for a week? As the duel began, Chris swiftly attacked Kevin. On the other side, Roman was guiding Kevin step by step on how to fight, but Kevin's body couldn't react fast enough and got a painful kick. Roman's voice continued to encourage him. Roman used a sound transfer method that only Kevin could hear. Guided by Roman, Kevin continued to fight, but his movements were still much slower than Chris's. Even though Roman had predicted the opponent's every move, Kevin couldn't keep up. Chris began to suspect something. How could a newbie avoid his dangerous attacks? Despite being covered in wounds, Kevin's will remained unyielding. This enraged Chris, lunged to finish Kevin off. But at that very moment, Kevin, following Roman's instruction, channeled all his strength into a forward slash, disrupting his opponent's stance. He then swiftly swung around, but ultimately failed to defeat Chris and was knocked back by a blow. The recent battle made Chris realize his own weaknesses. If not for using techniques identical to those he had seen in his past duel with Roman, he would have been the loser. Chris understood he needed to find his unique path to become stronger, so he no longer required direct guidance from Roman. Observing and learning would suffice. A week later, the social event hosted by the Barco family took place. Hans, the butler, had specially prepared a fancy outfit for Roman, sure to catch the attention of many ladies. Chris and Kevin were also in attendance. At the Barco mansion, many nobles had already gathered, gossiping about Roman as a good-for-nothing, astonished that he dared to attend the party after his engagement had been broken off. As the door opened and Roman entered, everyone was stunned by his dashing appearance. They couldn't believe their eyes. Was this the so-called fool of the Dmitry family? The beautiful Miss Sophia from the Grizel family immediately approached Roman. Although she had never met him before, he seemed nothing like the rumors. Before coming to the party, Roman had researched the attending noble families to foster connections. Everyone was in shock. When did Roman gain such extensive knowledge? He quickly became the center of attention. The eldest son of the Barco family couldn't restrain himself and instructed his butler to bring Roman to a private room for a chat. Meanwhile, Kevin, with his naive appearance, was ridiculed by some minions from other families. So you've chosen death. In the other room, Roman and Anthony, the Barco heir, had a tense discussion. After a while, Anthony revealed a dark secret behind the previous body owner's suicide. It turned out that Anthony had orchestrated a scene where it seemed Roman was raping his cousin. This act was designed by Anthony to force Roman to break off his engagement with Flora. A rush of memories confirmed the truth for Roman. The tarnishing of the direct lineage of the Barco family would plummet the reputation of the Dmitry family. Roman, lacking confidence to confront his father's wrath and not wanting to cancel his engagement to his beloved, chose escape through suicide. Now, Anthony schemed to make Roman accept a marriage proposal to the Barco family, portraying him as a fool. Armed with the truth, Roman's demeanor changed. He directly refused the Barco's marriage proposal, saying, "You thought you could threaten me, but you made a huge mistake. I've already been called a fool. 1 or 2 more rumors won't change anything. Should I assist the Lawrence family in obstructing the Barcos to relieve some stress?" Anthony turned pale, realizing the most powerful family in the Northeast was the Dmitry, and the current Roman was far more formidable and dangerous than before. Finally, he had to keep this matter quiet because he didn't want to confront the Dmitry family. Roman then left the party, and outside, another family were bullying Kevin after he had asked them to take back their derogatory comments about the Dmitry family. Chris couldn't intervene carelessly because they were at the Barco residence, and it would reflect poorly on their family. Suddenly, an attack from a Barco knight was blocked by Roman, then Roman slapped him so fast that he couldn't react. Roman's hand continuously struck his face, which was a satisfying sight. Everyone who witnessed this was shocked. That knight kept begging for mercy, which enraged Anthony, who approached to confront Roman. However, Anthony failed to realize who really held the power here. With his commanding presence, Roman immobilized him effortlessly. The Barco knight ended up beaten senseless, tarnishing the face of the Barco family. Everyone present realized that Roman was no longer the fool they once thought. A single wrong move and their entire family would face his wrath. On their way home, Chris and Kevin apologized to Roman for not beating those men up sooner. Roman understood to some extent why they acted that way. Enduring such humiliation must have been tough for them. Thank you for holding back until I arrived. Impulsiveness only brings trouble. Your decision helped prevent the worst from happening. Even if you have to swallow your pride sometimes, never forget your own anger. If you want to follow someone who stands out in a crowd, you must adapt to such behavior. Once home, Roman began investigating the Barco family, which had settled in the northeast for over a century. After some Barco family members worked for the central government, they began to rise as a prominent family in the region. However, their military strength wasn't significant, indicating that their power mostly came from the central government. On the Salamander continent, there were 2 empires and 6 kingdoms. Among them, the Cairo kingdom was the smallest and weakest, making it an easy target. Cairo had no choice but to ally its army with the central government to survive, granting the central government a lot of power in the region. If the Barco family borrowed this amount of money without any collateral, it seems they invested in the Berga mercenary group. The Berga mercenary group comprises hundreds of grade-A mercenaries from all over. The core of this group is in Berga, and they might attack Lawrence in the next half-month. This upcoming battle between the 2 families is Roman's chance to reclaim dominance for the Dmitry family in the northeast. While the Dmitry family is powerful, they aren't seen as a threat by other families. Meanwhile, a grade B mercenary named Lucas to the Dmitry, seeking to order a high-quality outfit to protect himself in upcoming battles. Suddenly, Lucas noticed the crowd in front of him. It turned out to be a military recruitment announcement from Dmitry's house. They needed 30 people who were simply alive and breathing, and the pay was quite high at 8 silver coins per month. The specific condition was that they would only work for Roman Dmitry, not the Dmitry clan. Lucas initially thought no one would join, but there were over 100 people waiting in line to apply. They all wanted to be like Kevin, who had risen in status since joining Roman. Moreover, Kevin was granted 3 days off to visit his family. Before leaving, the butler, Hans, even gave Kevin new clothes and a monthly salary of 30 silver coins. Holding a loaf of bread, Kevin returned home, thinking his parents and sister would be thrilled, especially since they had been struggling to find food. However, he was shocked to find them living in a lavish house. It turns out Hans had gifted them the house and even a plot of land to cultivate, all on the orders of young Master Roman. Many from the castle had been kind to them. Upon realizing this, Kevin cried, confident in his decision to follow the young master. News about Kevin's family spread quickly through the town, and people started to view young Master Roman differently, leading to even more applicants. Lucas was in disbelief, having left only 2 years prior and unable to fathom such changes in the once deemed useless heir of the Dmitry family. He found it intriguing and wanted to verify the stories himself. Roman's father was shocked to learn that over 500 people had applied. The official selection began the next day. Many, like Lucas, were skeptical about the prior rumors and wanted to see young Master Roman for themselves. Roman confidently announced that he had no intention of hiding in a remote area but would continuously fight for a higher position. He warned of potential dangers, giving anyone fearful the option to leave immediately. However, he assured them they would regret not witnessing him ascend to the highest position in the continent. The selection process was simple. Applicants would stand for 3 archers aimed at them. If they didn't flinch when arrows were fired, they'd pass the first round. As the challenge began, some believed the archers would miss intentionally, but the second arrow hit a man's leg, causing a scream of pain. This made everyone fearful, wondering if the selection was a suicide mission. A few scared participants were scolded by Chris and asked to leave immediately. Everything had been planned by Roman the night before. He had planted some participants to get hit without suffering serious injuries, to test the resolve of the others. These participants were promised a generous reward. Fast forward, about 100 had left after witnessing others get hit. The next applicant had orange hair. Despite trembling like a leaf, he still wanted to be Roman's right-hand man. The first arrow shot past his face, making him hesitate and ponder whether he should stop, but in the end, he stood firm to complete the challenge. Thus, the review went smoothly. Excluding those who quit, about 400 people participated and only 120 passed. However, Roman only accepted 30 of them, so everyone had to enter the second round. Roman said, "If you pass this selection round and become my subordinates, you'll lead the life of a predator. The rules are simple. As you can see, various wooden swords are prepared for you. Pick one you like. Prove your worth by dueling with me." This left everyone dumbfounded. Was Roman really going to fight one-on-one with 120 people? Furthermore, those who can last a minute will get even better terms than previously announced. Hearing this, a tall man named Vulcan, who looked down on Roman and believed he could easily last a minute, stepped forward. As soon as the match began, Vulcan aggressively lunged at Roman but missed, due to trip over Roman's leg. He was down within 3 seconds. From below, Lucas recognized that Roman was on another level, dodging attacks with swift and graceful movements. Indeed, very few could withstand a minute against him. An hour into the second round of selection, people thought Roman would tire out and they'd have a better chance, but that was far from the truth. 60 matches and 60 eliminations later, no one dared to challenge Roman. At this moment, Lucas stepped up to the challenge. He felt the immense pressure emanating from Roman and believed Roman's prior claim of being a dominant force. The duel started, and Lucas attacked Roman, but all his moves were blocked. Even a sneak attack using a small dagger was futile. Lucas, to last a minute, decided to be continuously aggressive. Roman silently acknowledged Lucas's decent skills, particularly suitable for solo combat, but wasn't about to let him last a minute easily. This minute was to make them realize the power of the Lord they were serving. The purpose of this selection was to engrave that in their minds from their first encounter. The duel should end. Roman launched a powerful strike at Lucas, but from countless previous battles, Lucas had learned to use anything to survive, immediately throwing sand in Roman's eyes. However, he then noticed Roman's fierce red eyes, unaffected by the sand, staring intently at him. In despair, Lucas surrendered. In his past life, Roman was trained never to close his eyes during combat. Even a moment's lapse could be exploited for victory. Even with a blade right in front of him, Roman's eyes never wavered. Lucas thought he'd be punished for his dirty trick, but Roman didn't, believing that striving to survive is also a warrior's skill. From then on, the participants used every trick to last a minute, but all were effortlessly defeated by Roman, a punishment for overstepping their bounds. But now, through the process of breathing and controlling his body well, Roman had achieved an optimal state. Because of this, even after hours of fighting, his strength did not diminish at all. Battles like this for him were basically just a warm-up. Finally, the second round ended. Chris announced that no one passed the second round. They would select 30 people from the 120 present. The list would be announced later. That evening, Roman personally selected 30 individuals and gave the list to Chris. This group would be under his training. Looking at the list, Chris couldn't understand why some seemingly undeserving people were chosen. For instance, Lucas was the first to play dirty in the competition. He's the kind of person who would forsake honor and teammates just for survival. Isn't that very dangerous on the battlefield? However, young Master Roman insisted on choosing him. While no one else thought of playing dirty, Lucas was pragmatic enough to act this way in front of everyone. Such people usually shine on the battlefield. Chris remembered his master's words, "Those who survive on the battlefield are not knights like us. They might not have the same abilities as we do, but they always remain calm and find a way to survive." Roman's early preparation for a team was also because of the conflict between the Barco and Lawrence clans. Flora had locked herself in her room ever since she returned from the Dmitry family. She seemed devastated, blaming herself for the destruction of her clan. She always thought of herself as intelligent, having completed an advanced course in the academy with excellent scores. From the bright smiles her father always showed her, she thought she was a good daughter. But in reality, she was nothing without her family, just like flowers in a glass cage. At that moment, she had no confidence to face her father, but thinking of Roman, once considered worthless but now seen as a hero by everyone, she gathered the courage to go to the library to find a way to retrieve the Lawrence family's honor. Rejection letters for support kept being sent to Lord Lawrence. No one dared to go against the power of the Barco family, making them more desperate. The Barco clan declared, if Lawrence didn't repay the debt or surrender the mortgaged land within a week, with the central government's approval, the Barco clan would declare territorial war against Lawrence. Since they had the central government's support, they couldn't borrow money to repay the debt. Everyone was sinking into despair. Some proposed surrendering so that their innocent soldiers wouldn't have to die. Lord Lawrence agreed, realizing they had no other choice. Just then, Miss Flora stepped forward, voicing her opinion. At the same time, Roman informed his father that he intended to participate in the battle between the two families as an individual. This enraged his father because, after the annulment of the engagement between the two houses, they had no right to join the battle. In the worst-case scenario, the central government might send troops to the Dmitry estate, causing a significant issue. Roman then mentioned the time he went to the Barco house. Everyone always said that the Dmitry house was the true power of the Northeast. Yet, the Barco family acted as if they were superior. You might be content with the current situation, but I, Roman Dmitry, am not. I want power, and I won't stand idly by. Neither the Barcos nor the central authority matters to me. Roman's father also realized this, often feeling looked down upon by other nobles, even though they were of the same status. This was primarily because he had initially been a small blacksmith who, thanks to his luck during wartime, had become wealthy and was subsequently elevated to nobility, quite different from families with millennia of history. Seeing Roman's unyielding gaze, his father finally relented. He told Roman that no matter what trouble he stirred up, he should always remember that he had the backing of the family. Give it your all, my son. Don't hold back. The next day, Roman went to the family's forge, rightfully known as the largest in the kingdom of Cairo. It was no wonder the Dmitry clan was the richest in the northeast. The iron reserves behind their palace had the most significant advance orders in the entire kingdom. And the Dmitry blacksmiths could sell the iron extracted at exorbitant prices. Hence, the tribes of Cairo's northeast would never dare to oppose Dmitry. Aside from fearing the wealth of Dmitry, if they couldn't secure a supply of weapons from them, it would become a grave concern. Roman was there to meet the master blacksmith, Hendrik. However, the Dmitry blacksmiths were quite arrogant, and they wouldn't easily heed Roman's requests. Only those who could distinguish iron quality and handle it properly earned their trust. And for someone labeled as useless like Roman, they naturally held disdain. As soon as the old man Hendrik saw him, he mocked Roman, "What brings you here?" Although his father had given instructions, this old man remained defiant. He taunted Roman, "Are you here to steal some pocket money like before?" He then pointed to a pile of old armors and weapons, telling Roman he could choose 30 sets for his soldiers. "If you're not satisfied, feel free to leave." Roman walked over, picked up a sword, and began to mockingly inspect it. It seems that the praises for Dmitry's iron armor are mere exaggerations. Is this supposed to be military equipment? Old man Hendrik angrily addressed Roman, "Dmitry's iron armor is the best in Cairo, yet you, who has never sweated in front of a forge, dare to judge it? It's laughable. If it wasn't for Romero's recommendation, who would never give you anything. While your younger brother Rodwell spent years assisting me to inherit the family legacy, you, the eldest son, were busy wooing women on the streets. Compared to everything on earth, you're nothing more than non-recyclable trash." Roman, unfazed, replied to old man Hendrik, "This sword is not uniformly forged, it changes color just from the sunlight. Surely, it's a product of an inexperienced blacksmith who doesn't know how to use a hammer. Is this worthy of the Dmitry house? You think, just for hatred me, you can entrust the lives of Dmitry's 30 elite soldiers to this junk? Can you bear that responsibility?" Roman's face suddenly became threatening. "This act of yours can be seen as insubordination to my father." At that moment, Hendrik realized the gravity of Roman's words. The nearby blacksmiths tried to rebuke Roman but were stopped by Hendrik. Hendrik had to apologize for his earlier behavior. In his early days as a blacksmith, knowing a warrior who needed a sword but couldn't afford it, he generously gave him his own. But that kindness backfired, the poor quality sword broke in battle, and the warrior lost his life. Hendrik regretted it deeply, feeling as if he had killed the man himself. This situation was eerily similar, letting his emotions belittle the lives of 30 soldiers. Hendrik agreed to forge 30 of the finest armors for Roman. Roman also provided him an exit by not pursuing past mistakes. Hendrik realized that the young master had truly changed and was trustworthy. Through the blacksmith story, Roman also learned that he had once stolen a masterpiece sword from Hendrik, which took 6 months to make, and sold it cheaply for pleasure. It turns out he was at fault, so Hendrik acted that way. Hendrik could only forgive if Roman could produce high-quality forged equipment worthy of a Dmitry heir. To do this, Roman instructed butler Hans to prepare everything for his own forging. It was time to begin. With his past life's experience, Roman crafted numerous swords. After countless battles, Roman's swords evolved, culminating in the 39th blade. It was called the Heavenly Demon Sword, a priceless artifact. Now was the moment to craft another masterpiece for himself. Powerful hammer strikes came down rhythmically. With intense concentration combined with his inferno skills, Roman's entire body seemed ablaze, burning incessantly to store mana. Meanwhile, Miss Flora gave her advice to the Lawrence family. If they could stockpile food and hold out until winter, things would become easier. By then, the Barco house would be under pressure from their treasury due to the massive debt they incurred for the war. The upcoming winter means that the siege plan will be ineffective. This indeed makes sense and is accepted by everyone. Lord Lawrence decides to defend the fortress as it is their only path to survival. Meanwhile, Roman has successfully forged his own sword, named Hoa Long, and is ready for the impending battle. A week later, the Barco faction took action, claiming the Lawrence clan had not repaid their debt, and thus they had the right to wage war according to the regulations. It's clear that the debt is just an excuse to start a war, and Lord Lawrence, of course, won't accept this, not wanting to put his people in danger. The battle begins, and a plethora of arrows fly from the walls to counter the Barco army. Barco confidently outnumbered the Lawrence forces threefold. They presumed an easy victory within hours, but were halted by the sturdy walls. A ditch was dug near the city wall to prevent enemy approach, and with the volley of arrows, it seems the Lawrence clan has been well prepared for the defense. Lord Barco decides to use a weapon, and boom, a massive explosion shakes the walls, caused by a huge magical catapult specifically designed for sieges. Each launch consumes a lot of gold because it's a strategic weapon. At this point, the Lawrence clan has only one option, to sally forth and destroy this magical weapon, but doing so is akin to suicide. Just then, a magical call comes from Roman. He will help Flora defeat the enemy for personal revenge, but the Lawrence family will have to make some sacrifices. Moreover, Roman needs a reason to join the war since their prior engagement was annulled. As long as she said, "Anthony Barco harassed me," Flora would have no choice but to annul her engagement to Dmitry due to the harassment. Known as the delicate flower of the Lawrence family, her reputation might be tarnished, but she'd have a crucial reason to address the Lawrence family's peril, as only then would Roman be able to partake in this war since someone has laid hands on his fiancée. Flora has no other choice but to agree. Suddenly, another boom, the walls are destroyed by the magical cannon, and an assassin tries to kill Lord Lawrence. Fortunately, Flora promptly shot an arrow to kill him. She states they will change tactics, open the gates, and face the Barco forces head-on. This left him stunned, as if he was seeking his own death. Yet Flora calmly replied that if we distract them by opening the city gates, Roman Dmitry will be able to direct his troops to destroy their cannons. The gates were quickly opened, and Lawrence had to face an army 3 times the size of his own, which included the formidable Berga mercenaries, who were far superior to regular soldiers. Seeing the might of the mercenaries, Lawrence's soldiers retreated in fear. They had to hold out until Roman's troops made their move. At that moment, Roman, with his forces, flanked the enemy from behind, aiming to destroy Barco's magic cannon. Seeing Roman, Lord Barco underestimated him, thinking he was merely a minor threat and ordered, "Kill them all." Roman, leading the charge, broke through enemy defenses, his strength instilling fear and demoralizing the enemy. Behind him, his troops bravely followed suit, fighting fiercely. All wanted to follow Roman, battling beside him. Roman headed straight for the magic cannon but was intercepted by the head mercenary, Berga, a renowned A-tier mercenary known throughout the empire. With a resounding clash, the two engaged, but Berga soon realized that despite fight his all, Roman was barely phased. Roman's relentless attacks quickly overpowered Berga, killing him within seconds. Witnessing this, Lord Barco was shocked and ordered all troops to kill Roman, but that proved impossible. Roman, standing before the magic cannon, exuded an intimidating dark power. With a mighty strike, he destroyed the massive magic weapon. Barco's army, now without their strategic weapon, was forced to retreat. In this battle, Chris exhibited a unique aura, different from before, striving to condense it, similar to what Roman did. As a result, his energy consumption was minimal, even in intense combat. Chris was becoming increasingly stronger under Roman's tutelage. Everyone else, although exhausted trying to match Roman's pace, managed to keep up, proving their training wasn't in vain. Their mission accomplished, they entered the city, where the people hailed Roman as a hero, expressing immense gratitude. Lord Lawrence was impressed, never expecting Roman to be this powerful, likening him to a fierce tiger. Roman entered the Lawrence family's council room, where discussions about a truce with Barco were ongoing, completely opposite to Roman's intentions. Barco, under financial pressure due to their large debts, had no option but to invade Lawrence. They wouldn't accept peace. Conversely, for our soldiers who had sacrificed, we couldn't forgive Barco. We had to show the world how we'd avenge those who dared to harm Lawrence. Meanwhile, Lord Barco was furious about the recent battle. To turn the tides, they proposed a one-on-one duel ritual. Both sides would send their 3 best warriors to represent their families. Roman would represent the Lawrence family, ensuring others needn't worry. He was confident in defeating any expert Barco might send. Chris would also participate, and even though he was only a 2-star knight, defeating a 3-star knight wasn't an issue. Ultimately, Lord Lawrence had to accept this proposal. With the agreement of both sides, the grand duel was decided upon. The battle would take place in just 1 week from the sending of the formal declaration letter. Swiftly, the day of the grand duel arrived, with Count Ertz as the referee. Should either side breach the rules, the Kingdom of Cairo would pass judgment, their honor at stake. Now, both clans were requested to nominate their 3 swordsmen and submit their match roster. Observing the confident demeanor of Barco, Roman realized something was amiss. Perhaps they had enlisted a master swordsman. Consequently, they had to adjust the match order. Chris would fight first, followed by Roman to face Barco's trump card. The battle commenced swiftly. Chris's opponent was Yen Sun, a rank 3 knight, while Chris was just a rank 2. The duel began with Yen Sun charging fiercely, but missing every blow. Given his inferior rank, Chris could only wait for the right opportunity, for one decisive move. Yen Sun, growing more aggressive, unleashed a terrifying blast of mana towards Chris, which seemed inescapable. At that pivotal moment, Chris recalled the techniques taught by Roman, concentrating his power and then explosively releasing it. With a resonant slash, Yen Sun was pierced, stunning everyone. Chris had done it. A rank 2 knight had defeated a rank 3, truly a prodigious feat. The second match was swiftly underway. Roman's adversary was Homerus, a rank 4 swordsman. Everyone gasped. Homerus was the 49th ranked swordsman in the Kingdom of Valhalla, a sacred land where swordsmen die with honor. Everyone in Cairo recognized his identity. Wandering across kingdoms, reveling in duels against strong adversaries, he was dubbed the Wandering Swordsman. Facing this formidable opponent, Roman was not fearful but rather anticipatory, hoping for a prolonged duel. At this moment, Flora pleaded with Roman to forfeit, to at least preserve his life, as this unwinnable duel wasn't worth risking his life. However, her plea fell on deaf ears as Roman replied, "I will not lose." As the duel began, Homerus lunged at Roman with terrifying speed, seemingly about to defeat him in one blow. Yet, Roman dodged, making Homerus realize he wasn't facing an ordinary foe. Homerus then unleashed his full swordsmanship, causing the battleground to quake incessantly. To Roman, this display seemed more like a theatrical act, and he felt no need to prolong the duel any further. Roman unleashed his ethereal demonic sword, so powerful and oppressive that Homerus could not resist and was immediately defeated. Chris realized that after their first battle, Roman had become incredibly strong in just a short time. Had he turned into a monster? Or perhaps he used some cheat? With victories in the first 2 matches, the Lawrence family was already the winner of the grand duel. The outcome was determined, but according to the rules, the 3rd match still proceeded. The knight who had caused trouble at Barco's feast was brought forward, having offended the Dmitry clan. Kevin volunteered to fight this round to avenge that day's incident. Recognizing Kevin, the knight's face lit up with amusement and arrogance, dismissing Kevin as a mere rookie. However, as the battle began, Kevin evaded his sword strikes. After several exchanges, Kevin suddenly emanated a terrifying bloodthirsty energy, becoming as fierce as a demon due to the effects of the demonic soul power from before. His sword pierced the knight's armor. Despite being hit himself, Kevin's relentless assault eventually defeated him. Kevin's frenzy astonished everyone, but moments later, he appeared as innocent as ever, truly a bewildering sight. After the battle, praises for Roman's heroics echoed everywhere. He single-handedly decimated hundreds of Barco's soldiers and became a hero in the eyes of the people. Meanwhile, Lord Barco was pressurized by his kingdom's debts. All the allied families abandoned him. To salvage the situation, he convened a noble council in the northeast and blamed Roman Dmitry, an individual without any official title, for intervening in the war. They lamented the loss of their magical artillery and the absence of any Lawrence fighters in the grand duel. They questioned Roman's rights to aid Lawrence, deeming it an overstep of boundaries. They thought they could shift all the blame to the Dmitry clan, claim compensations, and clear their debts. At that moment, Roman stormed in, questioning the discussion about him. Lord Barco hastily accused him, but Roman declared that it was his turn to speak of his identity. The Lawrence and Dmitry clans originally had a marriage pact, but now Roman had broken this engagement due to Barco's eldest son and Anthony Barco's threats. Roman recounted the past treachery against him and revealed another reason: Anthony overstepped his boundaries by harassing Flora, his fiancée, leading her to break off the engagement. She could testify to this. Roman challenged Lord Barco and all present: did he genuinely have no right to intervene in the war? Lord Barco was rendered speechless. Roman then demanded a duel with Barco's son as punishment, threatening to report everything to Lord Dmitry, which would certainly spell doom for the Barco clan. Anthony wept, begging his father, but the old man had no other choice. Even as the eldest son of the Barco family, he would pay the price for crossing Roman. Their battle ensued shortly after. As Anthony shakily pleaded for his life, could Roman be so merciful? Anthony even abandoned his honor, accepting Roman as his master just to save his life, but to no avail. Roman struck him down with a single blow. Lord Barco, in anguish, embraced his son's corpse, but there was nothing he could do. Life and death in combat were all too common. He then turned to the other families, threatening that if they did not sever ties with the Barco family, they would be confronting him and the Dmitry family. Roman left as they remained terrified. Days later, the bank seized the Barco's assets and the old lord, attempting to flee, was found dead on a nearby hill. The once powerful Barco family in the northeast met such a tragic end. Coincidentally that night, Roman was strolling under the moon. Wasn't it obvious then? Even though the Barco incident remained mysterious, the Malok family still held a party. From now on, the Dmitry would be the central family of the Northeast. This was a perfect opportunity for the Malok, who always sided with the Dmitry. Roman's mother was present, welcomed in an attempt to win over the family. Her political acumen was astounding. Even Lord Romero occasionally yielded, fearing his wife, a typical case of a husband fearing his wife, right? After a few speeches, it was clear she subtly threatened those who sided with Barco while portraying her generosity by welcoming them to her side. Later, they started matchmaking their daughters to join the Dmitry family. Previously, they'd push such matters onto others, but now things had changed. Roman had become powerful and renowned. Moreover, his strength was so immense that he could crush a Tier 4 knight, which was awe-inspiring. So, they were now competing to have him as a son-in-law, with Roman's mother skillfully declining. Meanwhile, after the battle between the two families, Flora began to find Roman unusually handsome, though she'd always claimed to despise him. Women are truly enigmatic. At that moment, her cousin Sylvia appeared. It turns out her family was hosting a party at the Dmitry residence, and the Lord wanted to establish a marriage alliance between Sylvia and Roman. Flora immediately wanted to accompany her to meet Roman again, despite her father's objections. Meanwhile, at the Valhalla Temple's Cairo branch, the monk in charge of the Valhalla Knight rankings was very curious about Roman, who could defeat a Tier 4 knight with one blow. The next day, the young ladies from various families attended the party at the Dmitry residence, including Sylvia. However, upon seeing the surroundings, she looked down on it, thinking it was no different from the countryside compared to the capital. Seeing a group of miners, many families scoffed at their dirty appearances, but only Flora recognized Roman among them. At that moment, Steward Han rushed over to clean Roman up, regretting that he couldn't stop Roman from entering and getting dirty. Upon realizing that the man was Roman, the young ladies did a complete 180, finding him incredibly handsome with a body to die for. Sylvia approached Roman to greet him but was coldly ignored by him, leaving her in shock. Beside Flora, there was a burst of laughter. Dmitry didn't want to waste time on those who were unworthy. After entering the mine, Roman realized the iron ore that the miners had extracted with their blood and sweat. Melt it in the furnace and turn it into iron. That's the nature of Dmitry. Empty words cannot coexist with the people of this region. We just want to experience and sympathize. At the same time, Chris was training soldiers. Roman realized his prestige in the recent battle with the clans had ignited loyalty and boosted the morale of the soldiers. Those who had followed him in the recent battle had learned a lot. With the training methods he had accumulated before, combined with the sword techniques he possessed and the ability to create unique swords, he can unlock the potential of the soldiers, making them skilled fighters on the battlefield. Roman also decided to teach Chris a new sword technique. He was different from the newcomers and could grasp advanced techniques. It's called Loi Min Fa. It's a sword technique with high damage and a very fast attack speed. In the past life, its master was called the Sword Saint. Roman then returned to the party. His handsome appearance made several girls unable to look away. Although he didn't like them much, Roman still had to act courteously like a gentleman. Only Flora realized Roman was just acting, and they had a conversation on the balcony. They discussed the Lawrence family. Most thought they became rich due to fertile lands and goods, but in reality, the Lawrence clan succeeded through trade. They sold or exchanged their goods to rise to their current position. That's also why the Count's younger brother became a merchant in the capital. All of this surprised her, as she had only recently learned it. Roman also mentioned that his work in the mine was to understand Dmitry's origins. This made Flora see something in him. A few days later, she went to the capital to leave her family and explore the outside world. Half a month earlier, when people heard that the young master Roman would work in the mine, there was a lot of gossip. Some said Roman was just posturing, as there's no way a young master would do such work. He only treats the blacksmiths well and always neglects our miners. The Lord's 3 children learned iron forging from a young age, but none of them learned mining. This is clear evidence that Mr. Dmitry discriminates against us. They are determined not to bow down to young Master Roman, to show Roman what mining is really like. Whenever they see Roman, they ignore him, but Roman doesn't take it to heart. In the mine, everyone divides the work clearly by the rules, and Roman can recognize this. That's why they can complete the assigned tasks for the day. The old miner told Roman that usually, the forges have to buy iron ore at high prices, so the finished products don't bring much profit. But with Dmitry, we can provide our own high-quality iron ore. Morkan, the experienced miner, shouted at Roman, "If you're not working, don't hinder others. If you're just standing there, then leave." Roman immediately apologized for his inattentiveness, an attitude that left Morkan astounded, wondering if this is really the heir. A week went by. Roman worked in the mine, and it seemed everyone avoided him. One miner asked Roman, "Why are you here? Even the second young master has never been here, but you are different." Over the past week, Roman has worked harder than anyone. This made him very curious as to why Roman came here. Roman said he wanted to experience the daily life of the people here to understand them better. He also wanted to contribute something to the family in order to inherit the vast wealth of the Dmitry estate. Thus, Roman candidly answered Morkan's questions. Dmitry's iron mine is the largest in the kingdom, especially in the nameless lands bordering the next kingdom. If they could develop there, Dmitry's assets would be infinite. The miner also mentioned the challenges. The mining speed decreased due to hazardous working conditions, and with reduced speed, the output also decreases. Just then, an earthquake occurred, and mine shaft 8 collapsed. Worse, there were people injured inside. While others hesitated, Roman volunteered to go in and rescue, despite their warnings. Swiftly, he brought the injured miner out, and everyone rejoiced for their safe return. Roman even carefully bandaged the miner's wounds, earning everyone's admiration. Roman's father, upon learning about Roman's rescue, scolded him, but thankfully nothing serious happened. He asked Roman to stop working in the mine due to its dangers, but Roman declined. "I think I need to work in the iron mine to better understand the Dmitry clan, as most of the people here work in the mines for a living. To ensure the safety of the miners, they could use a magical artifact, but it would be costly. Installing such artifacts would not only increase iron ore production but also enable the development of untapped iron ore deposits. This is an opportunity. Furthermore, we should have a specialized team to ensure safety and reduce risks. In short, father just needs to invest money." In the following days, Roman decided to use the vast resources of his family to set up an information-gathering association from all classes. However, he needed someone professional to organize everything, and he had someone in mind. Meanwhile, Chris was teaching everyone how to perceive and absorb his special mana, a gift from their master, which shocked everyone. It is an invaluable treasure for warriors like them. Under Chris's guidance, within a few days, Lucas could feel his senses becoming incredibly sharp. This technique is the light sword, combined from 108 total ways of fighting the enemy, a perfect move to harness the power of intelligence. Lucas is indeed the right person to gather and process information. Once an experienced mercenary with an extensive network. Highly adaptable and has experienced all kinds of life changes. However, Lucas refuses because then he wouldn't get to fight alongside his master anymore. But when he learned that his master would gift him something even greater than the light power and light sword from before, Lucas changed his mind and agreed to become the head of the News Guild. After the previous tunnel collapse, Roman successfully gained the trust of the people of Dmitry, which infuriated him because 3 years ago, his father had chosen the second young master as the heir. However, with Roman's performance, everyone believes he's more deserving of that position. The inheritance battle has silently begun between the eldest and second young master. Roman has proven himself in a short time, but Rodwell had borne the responsibility of being the heir since childhood. Lord Dmitry summoned Hans to discuss this. Hans affirmed Roman's qualification to become the new lord after all he had done recently. Then he summoned the iron mine head, Morkan, who also came along and recounted the tunnel incident. "If you ask me about the young master, I'd say he's the heir. I'd trust in his leadership." This left the lord in doubt, but the ultimate decision lies with the blacksmiths. Old Hendrik, recognizing the quality sword among Roman's military equipment, realized it was a masterpiece, rarely seen even in this land. Its responsiveness was also outstanding. Although he claims to be the best blacksmith in the continent, enhancing responsiveness is a different matter. So, he personally sought out Roman to ask who made it. Roman replied he made it himself, which Hendrik couldn't believe. Roman then demonstrated his skills, deeply immersing himself in fire and steel. The perfection stunned Hendrik, reminding him of Lord Romero at his peak. Recognizing Roman as the creator of the fire dragon sword, he bowed in respect. Roman gifted the sword back for a previously sold precious blade. Hendrik then fully trusted Roman. When asked about the inheritance, he agreed. He told Lord Dmitry about witnessing Roman forge a masterpiece. "Isn't this fire dragon sword proof enough?" The lord was astonished, thinking his son had truly excelled. Meanwhile, the second young master's report arrived. He's advancing to rank S at the Royal Academy and will graduate top of his class, leaving the lord in doubt. Days later, Valhalla Temple representatives visited the Dmitry family. Monk Yalaz wanted to personally rank young Roman. With Roman at the forge, they'd meet the next day. Meanwhile, the monk noticed Roman's troop. The new soldiers were light swordsmen, with Kevin and a bald guy fiercely fighting. Kevin's growth was evident, overpowering his opponent. Their training spirit resembled a battlefield, shocking the monk. Were they really from a remote land? When did Dmitry gain such power? Indeed, the primary resource of the Northeast, but this power exceeds a rural family's capacity. Learning from Hans that these were Roman's private soldiers shocked them further. How could light swordsmen be mere personal guards? Surely they were hired at a high price, right? The butler could only honestly say that in the past they were not knights but ordinary people whom the young master took in. Bald Pucky was just a mercenary. Thanks to the teachings of young Master Roman, they have reached this point. Hearing this, the monk was taken aback. Was he really that overpowering? The next day, he had a meeting with Roman. It seems that Roman didn't realize what he had achieved. Homerus wasn't just ranked 49th, he was expected to become even stronger after reaching 4 stars. Yet, Roman was able to defeat him in one blow. It's no exaggeration to say that you are the greatest genius in Cairo's history. The purpose of his visit was to confirm Roman's rank. A ranking match is divided into official and unofficial. In an official match, each person has to defeat an opponent under the observation of an approved observer from the Valhalla Palace. However, because Roman defeated Homerus in an unofficial match, Roman's rank would be 100. To verify the strength of those who win unofficial matches, we use the luminous power sphere. If you exceed the standards we have preset in the sphere, you'll meet the minimum ranking criteria. Roman asked, "Isn't defeating high-ranked individuals in official matches faster?" However, participating in an official match isn't that simple. Moreover, no one from the Northeast has ever entered the rankings, so you'll have to be tested by this sphere. Depending on the colors corresponding to the number of stars achieved, he powerfully channels his energy into the sphere. The monk beside him was astounded. He's really powerful. The sphere quickly shifted colors, from 3-star gold to 4-star blue. It then showed signs of cracking, unable to withstand his power. This object was crafted from the pinnacle of the continent's greatest minds. It's a perfect, durable product created by energy transferred from a 6-star knight. Even if the energy exceeds its limit, the sphere will still function without complications. No one has ever destroyed it before. Based on the blue color, Roman is evaluated as a 4-star knight, but his potential for 6 stars is significant. He truly is a monstrous being who might change this entire kingdom. The monk personally investigated everything related to Roman. He used to be a nobody, but in just a few months, he became a 1 in 10,000 genius, continually achieving commendable feats. Matters were getting out of hand. Information about Roman, the youngest ranker, was sent to Valhalla's headquarters. This news will shock the entire kingdom. Powerful factions won't sit idle, letting him fall into the hands of rivals. The end.